Let's look at leisure and pleasure between the two wars, the First and Second War. Now, what sort of organisations were there in the village concerned with leisure and pleasure? Was there in fact a football team?
Yes, we had a football team, a good team in those days.
This was soccer, not
Soccer,
rugby.
yes, soccer, not rugby.
And where did you play?
Well, we had several football pitches. We had one along the station road, then they changed that and went down to on the Usk Road, where the bungalows are built now.
Oh, yes.
It's in Cadet's Court. That was the main football field.
And what sort of teams did you play?
Well, local village teams, you know.
Yeah.
Surrounding teams. Most little villages had football teams in those days. It started up after the First World War.
And did they play for trophies?
Yes, they played for the cup. The doctor who was here then, Dr. Langdon, put the cup up, and they called it the Langdon Cup. And it's still somewhere down in the valleys now. They still play for it now.
They didn't play rugby at all. It wasn't.
No,
popular.
we didn't play rugby at all here. We didn't have a rugby team here then.
Cricket?
Yes, they had a cricket team. And the cricket pitch was down where the Willows is now.
Was that very popular?
Oh yes, very popular.
And they played the local village?
Yes, local village teams.
Were you a sportsman?
No, I used to go and watch. I didn't play football or tennis or cricket.
You were a good spectator?
Oh yes, I liked to watch the game, yes. And the trouble was, I was working on Saturdays when I was working at the shop, and it was always Saturday afternoon sport.
Right. You mentioned tennis.
Yes, they had a tennis court at the castle, where the archery was.
And did they actually have archery as well?
No,
Not in your
only
time?
just tennis.
And it was Raglan Tennis Club?
Yes, Raglan Tennis Club, that was, yes.
I understand there was a ladies' hockey team. Do you recall that?
Yes, and they used to play it along, their place was along the station road.
Were all these activities well supported by...
Oh yes, they were supported, yes.
Were there any other activities
Well,
for people other than sportsmen?
No, there was. We had a brass band.
Oh.
And we had
when was that formed?
That was formed about 1925. The band was, and it went on up into the 1930s. And the players kept on leaving, and of course the band fell through.
And when did they play? Did they give concerts or did they play at functions?
And garden parties, sports, and that sort of thing. They had quite a full program in the summer. We were playing at garden parties and fetes and that sort of thing.
Were they very popular and frequent, these fetes and garden parties?
Yes, all the summer. We had an engagement every Thursday in the summer.
Were these held for charities, these garden parties? Or?
Yeah, run for charity, that's right.
And what sort of places would they be held?
Well, where they used to hold little sports and that sort of thing, you know, and perhaps at a gentleman's house and that sort of thing.
I see. What about indoor sports or activities? Did they play billiards or snooker?
No, we didn't have any billiard tables or snooker then.
You didn't have a billiard hall then?
No, we didn't have a billiard hall.
But I see to be told something. There was a billiard hall in the village at some time.
Yes, well, I don't remember it as a billiard hall. It was used more as a storage. It belonged to the Price Jenkins at Willsborough. And they kept most of their... they used to keep their coal down there for one thing, and then take it up as they wanted it. But during the First World War, it was used for prisoners of war who came. They had about 20 prisoners of war, German prisoners. They came here to work on the farms.
And they were billeted in the
They were
hall.
billeted in the billiard hall. They had a guard with them. And then they used to take these men out, 2 or 3, to different farms, or perhaps the farmers would pick them up in the morning. And then they'd have to bring them back in the evening. And they'd be responsible for them all day.
Where was this hall?
That was on the S Road.
Outside the village, or?
Yes, just on the end of the village. It was on the end of Wilker Terrace, where Wilker Terrace is now.
Oh, yes, yes.
Right on the far end.
So it's roughly where Mr. Hampshire's house is?
Yes, near enough there, yes.
I see. Amateur dramatics and things like that?
Yes, we had a amateur dramatics society. That went quite well for the time.
Would that be the 1920s, 30s?
Well, later than that, actually,
Later.
yes. From the 30s up to well into the Second World War. Mr. Roy Silverthorne was
One of the leading lights?
one of the leading lights, yes.
Ah, yes.
Yes.
And they performed, presumably, in Jeffreys Hall?
Yes, in Jeffreys Hall. Yes. And they used to put on a good show. They used to do well.
Talking of Jeffreys Hall, do you know the history of this hall?
Well, before it was called Jeffreys Hall, it was the public hall. And then a Mr. John Jeffreys, he was a blind man, and he was church warden at St. Garrick's, and he bought the hall and gave it to the church, and then it was named after him, the Jeffreys Hall.
That's how it got its name.
That's how it's got its name.
But it's quite old, I would think.
Oh, yes. Before it was a public hall, they tell me it was a malt house.
But you don't remember.
Oh,
It's
I don't
before your
remember
time.
that. I can tell you, there's a stone in memory of one of the maltsters just by just went into the church, just inside the church gates.
Is that really?
Yes. Yeah, on the right-hand side, if you go in, you see that big flat stone, and his name, Maltster, and his name, and then it's just his title, like a Maltster.
Is it inside the church door?
Yes, just inside the church gate.
Oh,
Just
the
as you go
gate.
through the Lich
The Lich
Gate.
Gate.
Yes,
Yes.
right on your right, you see in memory of him.
But that hall has been has seen a lot of activities at
Oh,
newer
yes,
times.
yes, it was well used.
For what sort of?
Dances and concerts, and there's a lovely dance floor there. Everybody used to say it was one of the best floors for dancing anywhere around.
And what sort of music would you be dancing to?
Well, we had local,
Obviously it was live.
yeah, local dance bands. We had a couple of dance bands, and they were really good. Piano, violins, a cornet, and drums, and all local people.
So they had the little dances in all the villages round.
Oh, yes.
Lanark and
Yes, well, they started after the First World War. These little villages, they didn't have anywhere to go for meetings or anything, so they built all like Brunwyn and all the way round, you know. And Brunwyn is still going strong.
This is the Crawley Hall.
Yes,
it?
the Crawley Hall. Yes, that's right.
So they had their dances and they had their amateur dramatics.
Yes,
Um,
and these concerts as well. Sometimes with local artists, sometimes with the engage a party.
A concert party.
Yes, a concert party. And the band used to give a concert once a year. And we always used to have a whist drive for band funds. That's how we got our instruments and uniform.
The whist presumably was very popular in those days.
Well, I can remember one whist drive the band got up. We had 62 or 63 tables. They had to play on the stage.
In the Jeffreys Hall?
In the Jeffreys Hall.
There wasn't much room to move around?
No, there wasn't. It was real packed.
In those days, where you had your dances and your amateur and even your whist, it was still lit, the building was still lit by oil lamps.
Yes, still. We didn't have electricity.
And you seemed to find that was okay?
Yes, we didn't notice it.
No.
We didn't notice it because we hadn't been used to anything else.
Because the electricity wasn't supplied to the village until 1949, I understand.
Somewhere around that, yes.
1949.
Yes, about 49 to 50, that's right.
And prior to that, the streets were lit by oil as well as the houses.
Yes, but they weren't lit for long, just 2 or 3 years. The lamps were there, but they weren't lit for years. Until then, it was a kind of when the peace celebrations after the First World War.
Yes. That's when they were.
And Mr. Bill Jones, he was the lamplighter.
This is Mr. Jones,
Mr. Bill Coffee Jones.
That was his nickname.
That was Coffee. Was everyone in Raglan had a nickname in those days.
Yes. Did you have a nickname?
No, I didn't have one. I didn't have any.
You were the exception.
Well, there were quite a few, but most. Well, when I say everyone, most people.
Yes. And Mr. Jones, Mr. Coffee Jones, was the lamplighter.
He was the lamplighter.
He lit the lamps.
He lit the lamps. That's right.
He would do this by lowering the lamp, presumably.
No, he had to have a ladder. They were not movable.
I see. And he'd have to climb up his ladder.
That's right.
And
there were about 4 or 5 lamps, I think, he had to light.
And he would light those in the evening.
That's right.
And then extinguish them in
about midnight, I think. Oh well,
whatever the time
after the hotels turned out.
Yes. Right, but I think.
And then, when it turned over to electricity, he switched the electric on for the lamp.
Ah, yes.
And he was presented with a lighter.
Oh, yes. I like it, yes.
Yes.
So he had the honour in 1949.
He had the honour of switching on the electric for the village. That's for the lighting.